In New York during the 1980s, a young boy named Edgar left home around 8 a.m. for school, but mysteriously vanished. His parents only remembered him wearing a t-shirt and carrying a red jacket. On his usual route, he passed by a fancy nightclub. Normally, Edgar's father, Vincent, would take him to school. But that morning, after arguing with his wife, he didn't notice how sad Edgar looked. Unexpectedly, the boy disappeared without a trace. The police questioned the landlord living downstairs, a quiet man with no family, who often helped the neighborhood kids fix their bikes. He calmly answered all their questions. But once they left, his expression turned strange. Chief Ledgerau handed the investigation to his team. Though what bothered him most was that nightclub Edgar had passed. Its owner, Gator, had been Ledgerau's old rival, a man involved in shady businesses that couldn't stand the light of day. Many officers had taken favors from Gator, often helping him get rid of troublemakers at the club. When Ledgerau visited, he saw the chaos himself and overheard them whispering a name. Number 8. A full day went by, but there was still no progress on Edgar's case. Vincent stood quietly in his son's room as his wife Cassie cried and blamed him, saying if he had driven Edgar to school, none of this would have happened. Vincent said nothing, instead retracing his son's steps to school, tears filling his eyes. Ledgerau reported what he had discovered about the nightclub to his superiors. They reminded him that Gator had been jailed 6 years earlier for illegal business but was now running the club again, with the police silently allowing it. Just then, a janitor cleaning a back alley found a bloodstained t-shirt, the very one Edgar had worn that morning. Cassie collapsed the moment she saw it. Vincent could barely speak. Finally, he whispered the question he feared most. Is my son dead? The police had no answer. The blood was still being tested, and as the days dragged on, the distance between Vincent and Cassie grew, just like the mystery behind their missing child. Cassie's face burned with anger, as though she blamed Vincent entirely for their son's disappearance. Vincent had never been much of a husband or father. His passion was puppetry. He performed a puppet show that children once adored. But lately, the show's popularity had faded, and the producers were planning to replace his act after 10 long years with something newer. Before Edgar went missing, he had actually shared a new puppet idea with his father, a creature he named Eric. But Vincent didn't take his son seriously. When he got home that day, he scolded Edgar for being childish. The puppet design, with horns and long legs, looked strange to him, not something modern audiences would enjoy. His harsh words deeply hurt Edgar. Cassie, already frustrated with Vincent's arrogance, argued with him again. Eventually, Vincent stormed out for a drink, leaving Cassie crying alone. She later went to comfort their son, trying to mend what her husband had broken. After Edgar disappeared, Vincent began to see his son's sketches differently. He found the drawing of Eric in Edgar's room, a tall, powerful-looking creature, holding back tears. Vincent took the drawing to his workshop and tried to bring it to life. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get it right. Frustrated, he drank through the night, tearing up drafts until his bottle was empty. Finally, exhausted and defeated, he looked back at a family photo on his workbench, the reminder of everything he had already lost. Vincent woke up the next morning with a heavy heart, his head pounding from the night before. As he tried to gather himself, something unbelievable happened. A tall, furry creature appeared before him. It spoke in a deep voice, telling Vincent to come along so they could find Edgar. To his shock, the creature looked exactly like Eric, the puppet Edgar had created, but this one was alive, talking and moving on its own. Days had already passed since Edgar vanished. Vincent and Cassie, along with the police, held a press conference to appeal for help. Reporters asked tough questions, blaming Vincent for letting his son walk to school alone and criticizing the police for the city's rising crime rate. The whole event ended in chaos as a group of kids caused a scene, and Vincent suddenly noticed Eric quietly sitting among the crowd, unseen by everyone else. Later, Edgar's teacher shared some of his drawings. Edgar had loved sketching, but wasn't great at expressing himself. One of his drawings showed his parents fighting while he ran away from home, and oddly, a mysterious figure was shown taking him somewhere. Meanwhile, Detective Ledgerau received disturbing news. One of the officers he'd met at the nightclub had died in a supposed drunk driving accident. But after replaying a wiretap recording from that night, Ledgerau noticed something. The man had mentioned number 8 and a young boy around Edgar's age seen at the club. Before Ledgerau could dig deeper, his superiors ordered him to drop the matter and focus on closing the case quickly to comfort the grieving parents. Back at work, Vincent discovered that the studio had added a new puppet character to his show without telling him. Furious, he lashed out at his editor, which led to the rehearsal being canceled. His co-workers were disappointed, accusing him of caring more about his job than finding his son. Frustrated and heartbroken, Vincent smashed props around the set, when suddenly, Eric appeared again before him. At the same time, Ledra began digging through old case files from the neighborhood and noticed a pattern. Many residents had criminal records. One man in particular stood out, Vincent's landlord. Ledra had questioned him before, but something about that man's calm attitude had felt wrong. When he returned to inspect the building again, he found a door that had been locked the whole time. A dark, narrow hallway stretched ahead, its walls covered in chalk drawings that looked like children had made them. Scattered toys and a half-drunk juice box hinted at a child's recent presence. While distributing flyers to find her son, Cassie spotted a small figure in a red coat. Her heart leapt. It resembled Edgar's coat. She called out his name and chased after him, only to realize she had mistaken another child for Edgar. Back at home, news flashed on the TV. The homeowner downstairs had been arrested. Meanwhile, Vincent met with the editor, tossing a hamburger to Eric behind him, leaving the editor confused. The investor had already allocated the full budget for the new puppet show, but Vincent was determined to include Eric, Edgar's creation, hoping that seeing it on TV might coax Edgar to return home. The editor, who had always admired Edgar's intelligence and kindness, understood Vincent's desperation and decided to speak directly with the investor. Given Vincent's decade-long contribution to the program, the investors agreed to a meeting on Friday so he could pitch Eric. At the same time, the police called with news of a new suspect in the case. Tests on the t-shirt revealed blood typo, not Edgar's type A, confirming it belonged to someone else. Yet the police discovered Edgar's DNA in the landlord's basement. The landlord explained that Edgar enjoyed the dark and loved drawing. Before the interrogation ended, a final question confirmed the landlord's blood type was O outside. Reporters swarmed the apartment building, hungry for news. But Cassie and Vincent barely noticed the chaos around them. When they got home, tension filled the air as another argument erupted. Vincent's parents, well-known philanthropists, had learned that Edgar was missing and had sent a check for $25,000 to help fund the search. Vincent, who didn't get along with them, felt his pride wounded. He was convinced that putting Eric on TV would bring Edgar back. Cassie questioned Vincent about why he hadn't told the police that he had chased after Edgar the morning he disappeared suddenly. She noticed a wound on Vincent's head and remembered something important. Pressing him with questions, Vincent didn't respond. Grabbing his backpack, he left the house while Eric clung to him like a ghost, begging to be put on TV to uncover the truth about Edgar. On the subway, Vincent grew annoyed and shouted at Eric. The startled passengers stepped back, thinking he might be dangerous, and no one dared approach. Meanwhile, the police reviewed Edgar's photo and realized the man running in front of the boy resembled the homeowner. The landlord admitted he had committed a crime in his youth, but at 72 years old, his health would prevent him from doing harm now. If the police had focused on him earlier, Edgar might never have been found. Vincent visited his wealthy parents, who were unsurprised to see him, and offered him tea, but Eric reminded him he needed something stronger. Vincent picked up a bottle of brandy and drank it all, talking to himself as his mother calmly watched, reminding him that he had done this since childhood and that she had always given him medicine afterward. Feeling unable to argue, Vincent left the check and walked away. He tried to greet his father, but the door was promptly closed in his face. Elsewhere, the police returned to the nightclub, discovering that Gator, who had once harmed children Edgar's age, had reformed. The child they had seen was actually the son of an employee waiting for his mother to finish work, leaving Ladra no choice but to return to the office. Back at the office, Ladra received a call from a woman who had been missing since last year. Her son, Malone, was still unaccounted for, adding another layer of mystery to the unfolding events. Vincent returned to the studio, angry and frustrated. He threw all his colleagues' sketches into the trash, one by one. Eric appeared beside him again, calmly whispering, "Stop blaming others, Vincent. The answer lies within you." Meanwhile, Detective Ladra went over the security footage from the day Edgar vanished. What he discovered shocked him. Vincent had chased after Edgar the very moment the boy left the apartment. Why would Vincent hide something so important? What exactly was he trying to protect? At the same time, Cassie found Edgar's birth certificate and froze. It said his blood type was O, not A, as she told the police. Why would she lie about that? Days turned into weeks, and still, no sign of Edgar. With no solid evidence, the homeowner who had been accused was eventually released. Vincent ignored the gossip, the rumors, the headlines, and buried himself in his work. After countless sleepless nights, Eric's puppet head was finally complete. Later, Vincent's mother met with Cassie. She urged her to offer a $25,000 reward for any information about Edgar. But she also warned her, Vincent was having another relapse. If they didn't call the family doctor soon, things could get dangerous. That same morning, Vincent was supposed to meet investors to pitch his new puppet show. But before the presentation could begin, the police stormed the venue. They took Vincent away for questioning. Cassie saw the flashing lights outside their building and ran upstairs, hoping, praying, it meant Edgar had been found. But the truth was much darker. Vincent was now the prime suspect in his own son's disappearance. The presentation was canceled. Eric's puppet debut postponed indefinitely. At the police station, Cassie met another grieving mother. She pointed to a photo on the wall, a boy in a basketball jersey. "That's my son," she said softly. "He's been missing for a year." Cassie's heart broke, but she also felt a strange comfort. Someone else understood her pain. Meanwhile, in the interrogation room, Vincent couldn't sit still. His legs shook nonstop, a mix of fear, guilt, and exhaustion. The security footage left no room for doubt. It showed Edgar leaving home, and exactly 1 minute later, Vincent running after him. The night before, the couple had fought right in front of their son, and the next morning, Edgar stormed out of the house, furious. Vincent followed him, not out of worry, but shouting his name in anger. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, make sure to subscribe to Cine Voice so you don't miss part 2. Coming soon. Hit the bell icon to stay updated and join the journey.